Chapter 3. It is an oral tradition, the words of the god Odin to Lod Fafnir, an ancestor of Alfheim. On long treks, a father may challenge a boy or girl who thinks of themselves wise to recite the charm taught to the masters by the god of words and poetry. Whether Odin himself literally taught the masters is irrelevant. The words are recited more to familiarize the children with the types of magics that exist in the world. What can casters do? It is important to know for those with or without the talent. The first charm, I know, is unknown to rulers or any of humankind. Help, it is named, for help it can give in hours of sorrow and anguish. I know a second, that the sons of men must learn who wish to be leeches. I know a third, in the thick of battle, if my need is great enough, it will blunt the edges of my enemies' swords. Their weapons will make no wounds. Leeching is the practice of extracting the life force or water from persons or plants. As one could imagine, an entire school of masters exists who specialize in battle casting, as the third indicates. Generally, there exists 18 charms listed on the most common form of the recitation. Many spells are shamanic in nature, manipulating the weather, speaking to plants and animals, shape-shifting. These were some of the most interesting to me as a child. Further, the charms can range from cursing men and removing curses, unlocking and unbinding chains and fetters, removing the power of fire to burn, wooing women, and making oneself unseeable. Then there are spells of a darker nature, used more carefully, but not considered outwardly illicit, simply taboo in larger society. Manipulating a man's mind to want or feel no desire, soothing a frenzied warrior, summoning spirits, speaking to corpses, and raising the dead. Considerable superstition begets the raising of the dead. Such an act is seen as robbing the gods proper of a task with which they should have sole authority. All masters are taught these spells, but it was few who specialized in them. Cormal was one of them, and his lover, the seeress Gil-Ruel, literally Griffin Noble, was the most accomplished. On the couch of young Saemon, I dreamt of my home, of the fortress Maralon. Like a hawk, my vision descended on the castle, its outer walls battered and broken in several locations. The ramparts exploded, Alfmen in black armor pouring into the keep like ants on a discarded piece of food. I was through a hole blown open by an accelerated projectile and into the great hall where I had departed with the ritual of Rensharo. The dead were everywhere, and I took some solace in the dark Alfs lying twice in number around the valiant defenders in their blood-stained silver armor. It was Cormal I spotted first. He stood, straddling a geometric chalk shape on the ground. His hand nursed a deep wound on his hip, sticky blood oozing from his ringmail. Let me attend to that, the crow-like voice of Gil-Ruel cawed. No, the master of the Dark Elves rejected, snapping his fingers to a servant of his. Bring me a master, he ordered. The seeress, a brute, appeared offended. Her bushy eyebrows drew down, and her lips curled into a frown. Don't look at me like that, like a child. I am about to honor you, fool woman. I couldn't help but imagine this sinewy man with Gil-Ruel on their wedding night. A disturbing thought. The contrast was great. She lived up to her name, built like a griffin. She was squat and hunched to one side like a wind-battered tree atop a hill. Her torso and limbs were fat, and she possessed bosoms capable of producing enough milk for 4 babes. Cormal, as I previously mentioned, was tall and sinewy in frame. He was handsome too, and the seeress possessed no station. Upon first hearing of their marriage so long ago, and after my laughter had died down, I had wondered what he had seen in her. She was 3 times his age, and he was 50 at the time. She had artificially prolonged her life through her connection with the dark magics, and her nose had twisted like a tripping root to show for it. Speak no longer in riddles, my husband. We failed to halt the ritual. What hope have we in stopping Sovos? If the school of seers survives the collapse, it will be for the worse of your gender. Cormal lifted his arm and winced in pain. A master, serving the darkened ones, rushed to his side and began treatment. They give you the ruins and the spells, but do not give you the means to think or innovate. He nodded toward the azure crystal floating in place where I had left it. Zyreth, the bridge. It was then I noticed the body of Everett being skinned by a seeress student. Had I been in my corporeal form, I would have laughed at the irony. Everett lay at the base of the humming artifact. Rensharo, you will go west, my dearest Gil-Ruel. You will stop Sovos. But, she cawed, our ritual. It was to be me who called on Hel to cast this land into the clutches of Niflheim. It was, but the Norns carve out another destiny for you. Cormal, lifting the section of chainmail around his bloody wound, revealed his flesh. I was pierced by a bolt from Maralon's crossbow. The royal poison has taken my casting for a fortnight. Gilruel's lips were like a ship bobbing in the sea. Her mind must have been turning over the possibilities that this twist of fate had brought forth. All the changed outcomes, the expectations she must cast aside, and the mission she must undertake to further their cause. She squawked again. I will go west, as you command, my lord, and kill Sovos. Kill, capture, or ensnare. Prevent him from finding the artifact before the full moon. That is your only goal. The aide departed their company, and Cormal moved within inches of his hag wife. I have more trust in no one else besides you, my bed partner. He took her tremendous hips in his arms, and his lips curled around hers in the most disgusting display of passion I had ever seen. The contents of this dream shifted from worry to nightmarish in that act alone. I shall make you proud, my sweet. Her crooked grin was the last image I saw before my eyes parted with the arrival of morning. I blinked once, then twice. Sunlight filtered in through the windows, and a woman with black hair looked upon my face. Who are you? The voice of a goddess. She frowned. She was a young woman and beautiful, her hair straight, black like Cormal's from my night's visions. She was clearly a half-Greek, like her brother, skin color lightly bronzed, but her eyes were green like leaves. Most pleasing was her slender form. She was the first healthy-looking person I had seen. I made to speak, but I was speechless in that moment, and to my luck, young Saemon spoke before me. He's a friend, Sylv, his voice answered from the staircase as he descended. It appeared he had left me to sleep defenseless. He would need to be instructed in the way of keeping watch. I mentally noted that. A friend? He looks a little too old to be your friend. I gulped then, and my voice came to me. What is your name, maiden? The raven-haired beauty contorted her face in confusion. Maiden? She raised her eyebrows then. Why does he talk like he's role-playing at the Renaissance fair? She continued to speak of me as if I were not present. This frustrated me. But I reminded myself that this villager was not aware of the extreme powers that I wielded. Otherwise, she might throw herself upon me. He's a part of the theater group at our college. Young Saemon entered the kitchen and opened the icebox. Did you drink all the milk, Sylv? I needed the rest for cereal. Frustration was present in the man-boy's voice. Silver, where is your husband? You say you are no maiden. I swung my legs outward and massaged my naked thighs. I worked some casting in, healing my overtaxed muscles, the heat and walking having taken their toll. My name is Sylvia. No, I'm not married. Her eyes found my legs, and then my shoes fashioned from the pants of the fat hermit, and I'm not having this conversation. She turned and walked up the stairs. It was to the kitchen I found myself next. Coffee? Saemon offered me a ceramic mug. Please, I accepted it, feeling the warmth in my hands. I sipped the beverage. It was very bitter, like a tea of sorts. We have much to do, Sean. I spoke the name slowly, putting emphasis on it as a good leader remembers personal details of his subordinates. I require a garb befitting a man of station. As well, I seek knowledge. Come, casually tell me the most powerful artifact in the possession of your city. Sean poured from a glass pitcher another mug of the coffee substance, then doctored the beverage with a white granulated substance that looked like sugar, and drank. He blinked several times as if mentally digesting my words. Where'd you say you come from? Young Seaman, Sean, let us have some order in our conversation. I believe I ask you a question. I took another sip of the bitter brown water, and despite my description, I found the warmth and stimulation provided by the beverage to be both comforting and mind-sharpening. Okay. Sean leveled his eyes to mine. I'll answer one of yours, and you answer one of mine. Deal? I nodded and sipped my brown tea. Powerful artifact? I guess maybe the National Guard has a tank? I don't know if there's any missiles here. Tank. Missile. My mind worked to imagine what those words in conjunction with this civilization's technology could look like. Perhaps a boulder-like projectile launched not by a trebuchet, but a steam-powered cannon. And a tank? A tank of what? What about a magic artifact? A religious artifact? I prodded. My turn, Sean said. Sylvia opened the icebox and searched with her eyes. Seaman glared into her back until she turned and noticed. "This is my house too," she returned his aggressive eye contact. After a staring contest, my subordinate proved the weaker sibling and caved. "Fine," he said, then motioned for me to follow him. "May I have more of this? This," I held up my ceramic mug, having forgotten the name of the drink. "Coffee? Yeah." Sean topped off my vessel, and we returned to his bedchamber. Once comfortable, with me on the edge of his bed and him in a chair of wheels, he asked me his question. "Where'd you come from?" We spent perhaps an hour exchanging questions and answers, both of us truthful as far as I could read. I did not bother peering into the mind of Sean, for I saw no reason he would lie. Over the duration of the interrogation, young Seaman discerned nearly my entire story, growing more excited with each answered question. "I can't believe this is happening," he would say, demanding I demonstrate small examples of my power. At one moment he turned to the string-laden machine and powered it on, pictures appearing on the glass with a box resting upon the desk. Seaman explained that the contraption was a computer that was used for purposes of entertainment, not computing. Many people spent many hours living out fantasies written and designed by others, and moving pictures were able to be manipulated by a rectangle with the alphabet written upon it and a mechanical mouse. He took me on a tour of a Hyper-Borean-looking realm called Skyrim, and showed me the magics that he could wield in this imaginary land. "Think of me as this dragonborn," my hand found his shoulder, "and you are my Lydia." He turned, aghast. "Lydia?" "Yes, she is a sturdy-looking woman who is sworn to carry burdens. Such is your role, Seaman." "Sean! Sean!" I echoed. As he absorbed information regarding my origins, I learned some strange tidings. Number one in importance was that I believed I had traveled not only geographically, but through time as well. I was able to realize this theory by looking upon the changes that had come upon Egypt using the entertainment glass device. Apparently this computer used an invisible connection to a bank of all known knowledge in the human catalog. That it was used primarily to mindlessly live out the experience of fictional characters like toys a child would play with was ironic. Young Seaman sought to prove his man-boy-like tendencies at every juncture. As he excitedly played out his fantasies in a world of no consequence, I looked at his body more closely. His forearms were soft, like that of a noble woman ignorant of labor. Where he was capable of growing facial hair, the budding follicles were wispy and dispersed. He had an overall odor to him, and I wondered how often he bathed, given he had the opportunity at any given moment of any given day. It was no wonder the fat hermits I had first witnessed were so tremendous. Most like, they were immobile most of their waking hours, gorging on sweetened cheese and bread. My attention back to the computer, Seaman was showing me the pyramids I had once gazed upon in the shape of a bird from the sky. I had seen the very same on the ground, amongst the pharaohs. Now, those pyramids were crowded by a city, more vast than one I currently found myself. The human population had exploded. There were now billions milling about, and magic was a thing of imagination. Perhaps most disturbing, where were the Alfmen? Was their absence proof that I had failed preemptively in my mission, or were my countrymen in hiding? Ever the hermits, the dwellers of my land. It seemed Pindar and his tales to the Greeks had won the test of time. The evidence of my country and kin was all but myth and legend, narrated by foreign tongues. Far from disenchanting me, my newfound knowledge narrowed my compass, so to speak, and my new goal was a land draped in superstition and supposition. Sedona. I was guaranteed red rocks and vortices of energy, magical moon crystals and healing energy. Seaman insisted that if a relic of magic or religion existed, it would be there. "You were walking when we first met. Am I to suppose there is no cars in your stable?" I asked, mind on the horizon. "Well, first of all, it's just a car, not cars. Second, we do have one. Well, my mom has one." Seaman turned in his spinning chair and crossed his arms. This was a non-verbal indication that he was close to the idea of using that means of transportation. He would need some convincing, and I would need to hold off on requesting a voyage north to Sedona. "Your mother, am I far off in believing she would wish for you to render aid by any means to a man attempting to save his homeland?" Young Seaman furrowed his brow. "Look, I know what you're doing. I can't take you to Sedona. Even though my mom is on a business trip, if she found out—" Fine, fine, I held up my palms. "If not Sedona, then perhaps just to a tailor." A common tactic in negotiations was what I employed. My metaphorical foot was in his metaphorical door. I pitched a big request first, in order to make a smaller request seem more reasonable and actionable. "Do you have any money?" He grew excited then. "Can you make money, or gold?" I should have found a more capable and rich patron, but it was not unlike me to see something in these young boys. Rest in peace, Seaman Senior. Everard. I slipped a hand into my ingredients bag and found the fat hermit's wallet. "What do you think we could sell this fine leather for?" "Give me that." Seaman took it and opened it, looked at the ID, then to me. "Where'd you get this? Whose wallet is this?" "No one. I mean, a nobody." What did he care? Just a very large hermit. "Paul Robertson," he read from the small card with a picture of the tremendous fellow in question that he took from the wallet. "He attacked me. I was unarmed." "You're a wizard, man." Seaman opened the wallet further and removed 2 green pieces of paper. $40. "Pennies or a fortune?" I asked. "Well," Seaman sighed. "I was given access to a shower with heated water and some cloth from the closet of Sean, another blackened shirt with the crest of the red bird, which I was informed was a sports ball team and not a powerful banner lord. The shirt was baggy, hiding my slight frame. The pants were as well, and had to be cinched with a belt. I was informed that pants were the appropriate clothing for men in this culture, and that robes were for those who judged the law and judged based on skin color. Sean motioned for me to be silent, and in what was a caricature of someone moving in a stealthy manner, we walked toward a door next to the bottom of the staircase that I had not explored. The heat of the outdoors was upon me, and we were in the darkened space of an open and spacious room that Seaman had referred to as the garage. He had opened the door slowly and ushered me through, spending just as long closing it. I entered the front passenger side door of the car at the behest of my patron, and he entered the seat of the operator. I was mindful to watch his actions, in the off chance that he became disabled and I would need to pilot the craft. His movements were rapid, as one familiar with the routine would be, and a hand found a small black box with a button used to open the portcullis of this garage. The chain-drawn door erupted in noise as Seaman's hands traded possession of the correct key used to start the wonderful metal horse. The door from the house to the garage opened, and the beautiful Sylvia stood in the doorway, with crossed arms and a frown. "Does she mean to stop us, Seaman?" I whispered. I could manipulate her mind. He looked at me with furrowed brows. "No!" he hissed. Wordlessly, the man-boy's finger depressed a button on the door of the car, and the glass window descended into the body of the vehicle. I would bear witness to a trial as old as humanity itself. "What will it take for you not to tell Mom?" "Where are you guys going?" was her response. "Goodwill." "I'm coming. I want 2 mugs." "1 mug. Deal. Hurry." I would be lying if I said I wasn't pleased that she would be joining us, not for reasons of lust nor want, but that it always helped to have as many pairs of eyes as possible when outside the safety of the home. "How old is Silver?" I asked, purely for platonic reasons. "No," Seaman merely replied. "A strange age?" Now it was I who muttered and crossed his arms. The sister returned and gave my wardrobe choices a strange look as the vehicle went in reverse down the pavement and halted momentarily before trekking down the blackened tar road. After making sure the portcullis came to a rest, Seaman navigated through the neighborhood and out into the city. There seemed to be a complete lack of pedestrian traffic, but a staggering amount of cars on the road. I was amazed at how many only sat 1 passenger, though there was room for 5 in most. Surely such a society must be capable of harnessing communicative tools in order to coordinate the efficient transport of the most people. That would relieve a significant amount of the congestion at the traffic stops. Cleverly, however, lights were used to control intersections of roads. It was at one of these red lights that I counted the amount of vehicles that had elongated trunks, as the maiden Sylvia informed me they were called. Trucks. These were the same cars that the hermit I had first witnessed possessed. These longer, taller cars made up about half of the numerous shaped and sized vehicles, but many of them left their greater storage space empty, or nearly empty. Driving past many neighborhoods of homes small and large, we approached a humongous lot of static cars, dozens of them. And young Seaman was careful not to strike any of the people weaving between the vehicles with handfuls of bags and pushcarts full of groceries. I would estimate that 1/3 of the individuals I witnessed were grossly inflated like the hermits I first gazed upon. Another 1/3 were a mix of wiry or muscular, The final third was some odd combination of fat and muscular, or just not as big as the champion eaters among them. Even though many of the women were of a size that I'm almost certain they would not be able to reproduce, they seemed to be careful still to apply makeup and pick out fine clothes that accentuated what they viewed as their best parts. Seaman found a spot to halt the car. Then I followed his and his sister's lead into the market. It was amazing to me to see such a variety of people around. It reminded me of the larger port cities I had traveled to, the difference being that everyone here wore the same style of clothing, for the most part, and spoke the same language. I saw men and women together, of differing races. It was quite a lot to take in, and a few gave me strange looks when I had been staring for too long. We entered the shop called Goodwill, and I was greeted by a starved-looking individual in a blue apron. I smiled and nodded my head. The interior of the clothing shop was colossal, and rows upon rows of clothing dominated the front end of the establishment. "A magnificent place! I must compliment the owner," I beamed. What struck me as odd was the complete lack of glass screens. I had expected them to be on the walls with how many I saw in Seaman's home, and in the hands of the shoppers and adults and children alike. I ran my hand through the shirts that hung on what at first glance looked to be a glass hanger, but was flexible and more robust. The threads of the shirts were woven well, like the one Seaman had for me now. "What material is this, Sean?" I showed him the hanger. Plastic. It's made from oil, I think." "Made from oil? What kind of oil did he mean?" I chose a loose-fitting, earth-toned collared shirt with small buttons. Then I found my way to the pants. I had to select a few pairs of the brown shades, and began removing mine to try them on. No, Sean stopped my actions, and pointed to a sign. "Changing room." "Of course, silly me," I smiled, thankful for my patron preventing me from embarrassing myself in this prude society. I walked over to a sign, passing women flicking through their clothing and lifting them up from their place in the line to examine the picture printed on the fabric. The shirts I had seen were each unique, not in color, but in those prints. Shirts from colleges, employers, sports teams, and names of organizations I was unfamiliar with. I had seen a shirt that I should be sold out. "Eat, sleep, game," it read. The people of this land seemed to spend their waking time in projecting an outward image of themselves as unique. No shirt the same, as every home we had driven by had a different variety or variation of vegetation. The door handle to the dressing room was locked, and just as I was about to channel to unlock it, a pleasant voice called to me, "Sir, someone's in there. You'll have to wait." I turned, expecting to thank the beautiful woman who had warned me, but my smile was stricken from my face as the sickly store clerk approached me, winking even. "Yes, apologies," I bowed, turning to the boots and the sandals I had seen on display, and made for there before the clerk could make advances on my body. I was delighted, spotting a pair of robust-looking leather sandals with a metal clip and crystals studded into a beautiful pattern. With my free hand I measured the size against the loaner pair of athletic shoes Seaman had given me. I had been unsure why he owned them, given he did not practice athletics ever. The sandals were perfect, but had to be out of my price range given the fine jewels. $6 read the price tag. My grin broadened. $40 must have been a fortune. "You robbed a rich, fat hermit," I sang to myself. The door to the changing room opened, and a dark-skinned hay-bale of a woman departed. I advanced on the space before the plagued clerk could molest my person. I placed the clothing on the bench inside, then stripped down nude and turned to. I was shocked at first, thinking a naked assassin was here to do me in. Thankfully, it was my own reflection in a mirror. I found the proper-sized pants, then donned my shirt and sandals, and just like that I was a local. I met Seaman and Silver, who were standing in a line, and handed Seaman his clothing and shoes back. "We have to pay for that stuff." Sean nodded toward my body, my clothing. Sylvia sighed and ripped the price tags from my clothing, handling me in a rough manner. "It's fine, Sean. We'll just have them scan." She stopped, looking down at the sandals I had acquired. Then she began laughing. "What?" I asked, my face becoming hot, my skin turning red. "What is it? I demand to know." Sean was laughing now too. "Bro, what are those?" This pot-bellied man-child had the gall to laugh at the manner in which I dressed. "A fine pair of sturdy leather sandals, young Seaman," I spat. "Those are for girls, man." "The rhinestones look nice. Don't listen to him." Silver patted my shoulder, as if cheering up a child. A good sport, I let them have their fun. It was better for them to be in a jovial mood, given the arduous quest we would embark upon soon.